Some pickups not only mark an era, but become legendary, setting new standards and influencing generations of automakers. Each of these pickups brought something unique to the table. I'm John, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you could subscribe to help me grow, I'd be very happy from one car lover to another. Kicking things off with none other than the 1948 Ford F1. Now, back in the late 1940s, America was shifting gears. World War II was over, and the country was gearing up for growth. Small businesses were booming, and rural America needed trucks that could keep up. But here's the thing. Before 1948, most pickups were just modified car platforms. Automakers would take a car frame, slap a cargo bed on the back, and call it a truck. And that's when Ford did something no one else had done. They built the F1, a truck designed specifically to be a truck. What did it have? It had a purpose-built ladder frame, a beefed-up suspension, and a wider, roomier cab. It was tougher, stronger, and more reliable than anything before it. And that's why the 1948 F1 didn't just start a new model, it started a legacy.
Now, the F1's cabin might not look very accommodating to modern truck buyers, but in 1948, folks, this was a little bit like heaven. A new cab suspension system was supposed to make the trucks quieter and smoother.
Up next is the 1955 Chevrolet Cameo Carrier. And folks, this truck cleaned up real nice. You see, by the mid-1950s, highways were expanding and the suburbs were booming. Trucks were strictly for labor. They were rough, loud, bare bones. Nobody took a truck out to dinner or parked it in front of the house to impress the neighbors. But Chevrolet, they saw a shift coming. In 1955, Chevy rolled out the Cameo Carrier, a pickup that didn't just haul lumber, it turned heads. They realized that America was falling in love with style, with chrome, with curves, with color. And they asked the question no one else dared to ask. What if a truck could look as good as it worked? It had sleek fiberglass rear fenders, flush side panels instead of exposed wheel arches, a car-like interior, and two-tone paint jobs. It was bold, elegant, and way ahead of its time. This truck wasn't just about function. It brought form into the equation. It laid the groundwork for today's luxury trucks, the ones with leather interiors, touchscreens, and chrome grills. Now, the Cameo didn't sell in huge numbers, but it sent a loud message. Trucks didn't have to be ugly to be tough. And just like that, Chevy changed the pickup from a farm tool into a statement. But then you have the 1963 Jeep Gladiator, and this pickup was special. Why? Because it was the 4x4 that took the fight off-road. You see, in the early 60s, trucks were still mostly about getting the job done. Hauling, towing, farm work, deliveries, four-wheel drive, that was a military thing. So if you wanted a truck that could plow through snow or climb a mountain trail, well, you were on your own. Most trucks simply weren't built with real off-road grit. But Jeep? Jeep had a different playbook. And in 1963, they decided it was time to bring that attitude to the pickup world. That's when they introduced the Jeep Gladiator. Now, at first glance, it looked like a regular work truck, but underneath, it was a trailblazer. The Gladiator came with full-time four-wheel drive, something unheard of for a civilian pickup at the time. It also had an independent front suspension on some models, giving it a smoother ride and better control over rough terrain. So, while the big three were still building trucks for the road and the job site, Jeep was out there building something for the wild, something for the guy who didn't just work hard, but played hard too. The Gladiator raised the bar, and it also raised the whole truck out of the mud. But then in 1972, the Dodge D200 was a truck that made room for life. Let's go back to the early 1970s. The American truck was already a staple, tough, dependable, and ready for a hard day's work. But there was one problem no one seemed to want to fix. There was never enough room. You had a bench seat, maybe a glove box, and if you needed to bring your kid along, they sat up front, bouncing around with no seatbelt, tools and gear, thrown behind the seat or left exposed in the bed. You either crammed everything into the cab or left it behind. But then Dodge had a different idea. They figured, what if a pickup could still haul, but also haul people? Not a giant crew cab, just a little more space, just enough to fit your boy, your dog, your lunch cooler, or all three. So in 1972, Dodge rolled out the D200 Club cab, and it changed the game.
It was the first factory-built extended cab pickup in America. Not a full four-door, but a smart in-between, giving you extra storage, a fold-down jump seat, and a cab that finally fit real life. It was a small change that made a big difference. Suddenly, pickups weren't just tools, they were family vehicles, weekend campers, hunting rigs. Today, extended cabs are everywhere, but back then, this was a radical idea. Dodge didn't just give you more truck. They gave you more reasons to drive it. Up next is the 1982 Chevrolet S10. This was the little truck that truly kicked the door in. By the early 80s, American trucks were big. Long beds, wide frames, and V8s under the hood. Not so great if you lived in the city or wanted something you could park without a measuring tape. Young guys, city folks, and even small business owners started noticing. But it was Chevrolet that made the first serious move. In 1982, they dropped the Chevy S10, the first compact pickup built in America. It had a smaller frame, tight turning radius, and impressive fuel economy for the time, but Chevy didn't skimp on options either. It came with available V6 power, four-wheel drive, and a solid list of trims and features. You could work with it, you could daily drive it, you could afford it. The S10 proved that not every truck needed to be a land barge to be useful. It helped launch the compact truck boom in the U.S., and its success forced Ford, Dodge, and everyone else to follow suit. It didn't just raise the bar, it carved out a new lane. Next up is the 1994 Dodge Ram 1500. And folks, this is the truck that turned heads. By the early 90s, full-size trucks were kind of boring. Boxy shapes, plain interiors, and nothing that really stood out. You bought a truck to get the job done, not to make a statement. But Dodge? Dodge wasn't winning the sales war, and they knew it. So they rolled the dice on something bold, real bold. They asked themselves a question most truck makers weren't even thinking. What if a truck looked as tough as it actually was? So in 1994, Dodge dropped a bombshell with the new Ram 1500, and the industry was never the same. It had massive fenders, a stand-up front grille, and that unmistakable big-rigged look that made it feel more like a semi than a pickup. You didn't just notice it, you stared at it. It didn't blend in, it dominated the road. But it wasn't just about looks. Underneath it offered powerful new Magnum V8s, a stronger frame, and get this, a cabin that was actually comfortable. Cup holders, modern ergonomics, nicer materials. This was a work truck that didn't punish you for driving it every day. Suddenly, guys weren't just buying trucks for the job site. They were buying them because they wanted to. The Ram made pickups cool, and the rest of the market scrambled to catch up. Next up is the 2004 Nissan Titan, the first import that fought like a domestic. For decades, the full-size truck market in America was a three-horse race: Ford, Chevy, Dodge. That was it. Toyota and Nissan, they dabbled in compacts. Decent trucks, sure, but not the kind of rigs you'd see pulling horse trailers or hauling sheetrock. Then came 2004. Nissan decided it was time to stop playing it safe. Enter the Nissan Titan. This wasn't just a beefed-up Frontier. This was a truck built from the ground up for American drivers, and it came out swinging. It launched with a big 5.6-liter V8 and 305 horsepower. It had a standard 5-speed automatic and an aggressive stance that didn't flinch next to a Ram. But Nissan wasn't just copying what Detroit was doing, they were improving it. The Titan had rear doors that opened all the way to 1.8 accreeds, an integrated bed rail utility system, and a factory spray and bed liner. The Titan had rear doors that opened all the way to 180 degrees, an integrated bed rail utility system, and a factory spray and bed liner. The 2004 Titan didn't outsell the competition, but it earned respect. And it proved that a full-size import could play in the big leagues without backing down.